This is the Scrum Feed, and it's time for Paul Dalligan's 2026 season preview. He set the bar high after last season with his pick of the Broncos as premiers. Let's see what he's got in store for this season.
Here we go. You ready for it?
Off you go.
So we'll kick off at 17, Professor, and there's one listener we know that won't be too happy with this. On the back of their Charity Shield form, it won't shock too many that I have the Dragons to come last. The bookies have them about there as well. They've got a coach there, Shane Flanagan, who I like. I trust. He's got a good footy brain, as they say, one of my favourite sayings, but they're terrible and their halves are terrible. And I will give you the tip, not only will they get the wooden spoon, but the coach, I don't think, will see a year out with Dean Young to take over. So there you go, Professor, for a bit of an opening zinger.
They beat the Broncos and the Storm last season, Paul, the grand finalists. They're a bit of an enigma.
Yeah, but enigmas fade, and this enigma's, I think, going to be at the bottom of the field. I can't have them ahead of anyone else, except perhaps the next team, if you want me to get into that, which will disappoint someone very close to you.
So they recruited Daniel Atkinson from the Sharks. Would they have the worst halves in the competition for this season?
Well, Daniel Atkinson is about as funny as a fart in a packed elevator. I'm sorry about the language, but it's not going to excite anyone, and that's not a criticism, but we tell it how it is here on the Scrum Feed. There are no worse half combinations in the game, unfortunately, so I can't see them doing much at all, the Dragons. And I have a lot of friends who are Dragons fans. Sorry, folks, but this one is for you guys.
Who's at 16?
16, Schooner won't be shouting me any beers shortly because I've got Manly there. Their heart and soul has left Cherry Evans in terms of the playing roster, that is. Their spiritual heart and soul, Jake Trebojevic, is one hit away from retirement, and I say that with no joy, obviously, at all. There's a big rivalry with many clubs in Manly, and apparently they're the Collingwood of the NRL. I've never thought that way. I'd hate to see that happen, but this club is very close to imploding, and Anthony Seibold is one of the coaches on the hot seat, and Fogarty for Cherry Evans, unfortunately, is nowhere near a swap, but I'll have some comments about Cherry Evans later on. I just don't like Manly's lineup. I don't like the roster, and I can't have them above anyone except the Dragons.
The other thing about Fogarty, Paul, is he's not a noted try scorer. 24 games last season, only scored 2 tries.
And that's just to avoid the nudie run, I'd say. You wouldn't want to be doing a nudie run in Canberra. I can give you the tip. You hung like a hamster. But, so I think that Manly is not a good team, and they're not exciting enough. They just do not have sufficient firepower. Perhaps we might see some games off the back of some Trebojevic magic, but I just can't see it happening. Luke Brooks, has been a massive disappointment. Sorry, folks, but Manly's second last for me.
And if they're second last, does that mean Anthony Seibold's another coach on the hot seat?
Very, very hot seat. Second only to one other we'll get to shortly.
Number 15, Paul.
We got the remember the Titans. And we'll remember them not too fondly after this season because I've got them coming 15th, which is about where they're placed by most pundits. A new coach there, Josh Hannay, well respected in footy circles, done the apprenticeship. What I think you can say in their favour is that they've got the captain re-signing, Tino Falamassawi. He could have been one of the Perth Bears' marquee signings, or their only marquee signing. And also a son of a gun, Marcus Bai Jr. has signed with the Titans despite massive interest from the Storm. Now, the Storm are pretty good judges, as you know, and playing under Craig Bellamy isn't too bad a thing. So read into that what you will. If I'm Marcus Bai Jr., I'd only be staying at the Titans if there's some faith in the joint, the owners, and the new coach, Josh Hannay. So some excitement there at the Gold Coast.
Well, they only won 6 games last season, Paul. They finished second last. Haven't had a winning season since 2010, so that tells you a lot, doesn't it?
They have, and you're right. Their best player, their most attacking player, Pereira Khan, has gone off to the Warriors. So that will deduct some try scoring from them. So we'll see what happens with the Titans.
Who have you got in 14th position, Paul?
It's one of my favourite teams simply because I love the town and I love the team and the passion, the Knights. I've got them finishing above where some do at 14th. The big question is the big signing of Dylan Brown at one point, whatever it was, $4 million or whatever it was per year, whether he works well with Sandon Smith or whether they're too similar or perhaps too different. So the way that those two interact with Kalen Ponga, who is in the top 5 players of the game, if not higher, will determine how the Knights go this year. A new coach, of course, so we'll see what happens at the Knights. Justin Holbrook's come in. We will see. Bradman Best, one of my favourite players. He'll be very excited with the Brown and Smith combination. I've still got them at 14th, though. Nowhere near yet.
Will Dylan Brown be the secret sauce that gets Ponga, Fletcher Sharp and Sandon Smith going?
Well, you'd hope so for the people of Newcastle, and it would be great to see. Kalen Ponga playing well is about as good a side as you'll see. He reminds me a bit of Gary Ablett Jr. in his prime in the AFL. Just silky smooth, brilliant player, thinks ahead of everyone else, and would be good for the game if that does happen.
Here's a stat for you, Paul. Problem with the Knights last season was they couldn't score. They only scored 338 for the season. That's the lowest amount since the Bulldogs were 302, who were the only other team in the modern era to score that fewer points.
Yeah, well, Joey Johns could certainly score when he was there, and he'd be love him back in the joint, but he's not there anymore, and they're still rebuilding from those glory days. But I can't see them finishing any higher. Not with those stats, you're right.
At number 13.
Number 13 is the coach with the most pressure on him, and that may be why I've got them higher than some do, as the Cowboys. I think with the half as good as they've got, Tom Dearden, Malolo still playing some good footy. I think that the Cowboys are 13th for me. I can't see them making the 8. But if they start off poorly, Todd Payton will be in for a bit of trouble.
They had the second worst defence in 2025. They let in 28.5 points per game, and in today's rugby, you're not going to be winning too many games if you do that.
No, you won't be. They've often had on their side is the home conditions. But to start the year, they've got the Knights, the Tigers and the Titans. So getting off to a decent start in this co is so important. I mean, putting the Panthers of last year to one side, of course, but then in game 4, they've got the Storm at home, then the Dragons. So they could easily be 4-1 after 5 games. So if they're not, the mail is that this is one of the 2 coaches at least who's got 10 games to prove himself. So there's 5 games that we can have a look at these Cowboys. I'd be expecting them to win 3 of those. And if I'm a Cowboys power broker, I'd be perhaps looking around at the seek market for coaches if they weren't.
All right, Paul, at number 12.
Number 12, we've got the Eels. Some have them higher. I don't. I think the Lomax saga is going to drain them. I think they are an improving team, as we saw last year with them. They've got a good squad, a good coach, but I just think that it's going to be a tough year for them. They've got this ready for this to start the year. Professor, how about this? First white week, Storm, at Broncos. So that could actually make or break their season because, yes, they've got the Dragons at home in week 3, but my word, what have they done to the football gods to kick off with those 2? The 2 toughest trips in league, if you don't mind.
Yes, correct. What I was looking at, Paul, is after 5 matches last season, I can remember you and I calling them the worst team in the league. But after winning 2 out of their first 10, they then went on a tear and won 8 out of the next 14.
Can I tell you who the best player on stats and all-round effort was for those games? The one we just mentioned. And despite the Eels players, fans want to say about him, no one put in more than Zach Lomax. It's not about just what he does, it's what you don't see. And they're going to miss that from him, and they just don't have that ready replacement. And you've got those dramas at the back, literally, with the fullback, whatever he's doing in the bath. Not saying that'll affect them, but it's not ideal preparation for any team having that.
Interested in Jonah Pezzett, on loan, if you like, just for the year. Coming from the Storm, 1-year contract with the Eels, and he's off to the Broncos for 3-year contract.
It's a strange move. I mean, it may work. It's just like a cameo role in a movie that can work well. It could reek to some of desperation and no one else to put in there. So let's to have him for a year, like a renter half. Not too different, I guess, from Cooper Crop with his short stint at the Roosters or Cherry Evans now at the Roosters. Similar stint, but it doesn't, to me, impress me like those 2 do. 11's going to be a team with the player to watch. And the player involved, unfortunately, with Cleary Jr., not Senior, the Advocates' shoulder at Macassini. Now, if you saw his try in the trial, some are comparing it to Joe Nalomu, Professor, if you don't mind. And the great Steve Roach said he hasn't seen a Tigers junior better since Tim Brasher. Now, that's going back to 1989. That's the excitement that Macassini brings to the West Tigers. Watching him and Jerome Luai alone will be the price of admission there. Makes me want to get back to Leichhardt Oval after many years. When he scored that try, apparently the whole of Leichhardt Oval just stood up and just applauded for quite a long time.
Well, you mentioned Jerome Luai, Paul. Abby Coruscant is one to keep an eye on as well.
He is. He's one of the smartest halves in the game. So I'm looking forward to what's going to happen there. They've got the Cowboys in week 1. They'll already be lining up for that game. It's a long wait, but 14 March. They've got the Cowboys at Leichhardt Oval week 1. My word, that'll be packed. And then they've got the Rabbitohs. So they always seem to beat us. So it's going to be a very interesting time for West Tigers, and there's a lot of buzz in the place. I've got them finishing higher than most judges.
That you have, Paul. All right, who've you got next?
Next up, number 10. Might shock a few, but it's getting into the stages of the tipping where we're going to do that. Got the Raiders, unfortunately, for the fans of the nation's Capitals team. I've got them finishing 10th. Yes, they were my apprentices last year. They've lost the halfback. Some in Canberra aren't overly fussed by that. They didn't think he was that pivotal to their success. What they won't be able to get over so easy, though, is I think the mental fatigue of crashing in the finals. They plummeted from the finals after finishing so high. So that high of getting there won't last. They've got 2 Ethans playing, Ethan Strange, Ethan Sanders. We will see what happens with them, but I can't have them any higher, and I won't get them in the 8. I'm sorry.
Ethan Strange and KO Weeks are scoring machines, Paul. 14 tries for Strange, 11 tries for Weeks. With some scoring power like that, could they surprise?
They certainly could surprise, and experts on the tippers have them in the 8, well in the 8 at 6. I don't. So I'm happy to be proven wrong. They're a great team to watch. They're great at home. Their fans are amazing, but I just don't have them in the 8. I'm sorry, not this year. It's a very tough from here on in.
Ethan, the other Ethan you mentioned, Paul, Ethan Sanders, coming in to replace James Fogarty. He's only played 4 senior matches, 2 with the Eels in 2024 and 2 with the Raiders last year.
And that's part of why I don't have them in the 8, because every team I'm looking at above them have not just experienced halves, but some of the best I've seen. So halves are everything in this game, and I just can't see them getting any higher than 10th. I just can't fit them in.
The unlucky 9th place
is the Sharks. So I was very big on them last year. Can I tell you how many players they bought in the off-season, the Sharks, Professor? Do you want to have a guess?
I'll have a guess. None.
The donuts. So that, to me, is a very surprising indication that they don't think they've got any catching up to do, or perhaps they're saving themselves for the frenzy of players who come off contract at the end of this season, or in the Rabbitohs case, half the contract list, I think, is off contract end of next season. Whether they're saving their money or not, I don't know, but they needed to add players to catch up, and our man Nico Hines adding to his 6-pack doesn't help them enough, I don't think, to get into the 8. So Blake Brady will be a great player. I think he's one of the most improved players in the comp last year. He might even make it into Australian hooking consideration. Nico Hines has stepped it up in the gym, but whether that means he'll be better on the field, we will see. I did hear him interviewed about whether he feels most under pressure of any half in the comp, and he was incredibly assertive with his response, almost sulking about it all, regaling whoever asked the question, who dared to, about the Sharks' record and why wasn't everyone else under pressure, because there aren't many halves that have won the comp, Professor, given that there's been repeat winners. He had a point, but he seemed a bit surly to me. I think chip on the shoulder, but I don't think they'll make the 8. Just a few concerns there. Not buying any players. I don't like that.
It's a bit of a fall from grace, Paul. They've made the preliminary final each of the last 2 years.
They haven't, and I can't see them catching up to the teams who have had players above them. And we're about to get to one next in 8 if you want to kick off with the 8s.
Yes, let's go for the top 8 now, Paul.
And this is our friends across the ditch. Might surprise some punters, but I've got the Warriors there at 8. I think the concern for them is the halfback Metcalf is out for 7 weeks, but Tanner Boyd was pretty good in his absence last year. Their heart and soul is back, who wasn't last year, Mitchell Barnett. And they've added, as we mentioned earlier, the Titans flyer, Canon Pereira. And you need a hyphen to play in this back line because there's Nickel Klotzat, Watten Zalesniak, and you've got Tavasa Shek there. It's hyphen central there at the Warriors, but the player I'm most looking forward to as a forward, Halasima. He could be the most exciting forward to watch in the NRL this year. So you can mark that one down as a player to watch. The 8, I think they'll sneak into it this year, the Warriors.
They spent a lot of time in the top 4 last season, Paul, but their problem was they struggled to score. There were 11 teams, including the second last Titan, that scored more points than them during the season.
Yeah, well, I think If they can just hold on for that first stint of the season, I think that they're going to come home strong. I'm having a look. They've got Roosters, Raiders, Knights, Tigers. There's some winnable games, but there's enough good players there for them to make the eight. Just.
Number 7, Paul.
So, and this is going to shock a few people, and many people, the bookies, have the number 1, the Broncos. And I can base that on my experience of Michael Maguire. The teams drop off. As good as they are, they drop off, and that, I think, has led to the Payne Haas massive news, the biggest news in 10 years, I think, going to the Rabbitohs. It's a coach issue. I think that's my take. I think that the players, unfortunately, like the Rabbitohs did when he won the comp with them, will drop off because he gets the most out of them, and then they just seem to fade away. And they've got another issue too. They've got Adam Reynolds and Ben Hunt. Last year was their grand final, literally. And I think it's their window is closing. The Broncos, I have them at 7th. Happy to be proven wrong.
Window closing, even though they've got the excitement machine, Reece Walsh, and Guillemette Shibasaki, the slow burn in 6 seasons, 30 games and 6 tries. Last season, 25 games, 18 tries, including repped Queensland State of Origin, and 3 games for Australia. And after 3 shows last year, Paul, we picked him as the person to watch.
Well, it's good that last year we were talking about his toilet water. This year we're talking about the Eels fullback's bath water. I think he's an amazing asset for the game. That Payne Haas news, though, has the potential to rattle that team. He might have his reasons, but I'm sure there's a lot more to it. And if I'm playing with Payne, I don't know whether it would be the warm send-off unless something's happened we don't know about. Nothing bitter, but it's not going to galvanise the team, just choosing to not be part of it and wanting to be somewhere else.
At number 6, Paul.
Number 6, I was thinking of having them higher, but I've got them at 6 is the Roosters. And I'll explain that. It's just in the last week, there's been a few comments that have made a few podcasts and a few people are talking. Cherry Evans may not be what he was, and that is coming from very good sources within the Roosters camp. The issue is this, Professor, if they're struggling halfway through the season, do you bench Cherry Evans, who you've put in all that effort and money and time and subterfuge to get in there? Do you put him on the bench? Do you put him on the pine? Do you bring in Savava, who's one of the best young juniors they've had there for a while? Or do you stick with him through loyalty and lose the season or lose the right to play in the grand finals? I'm worried about the Roosters and Cherry Evans. I don't think he's going to complement Sam Walker the way that he may have been initially thought. Some positives, though. Spencer Leniu off the bench, one of the best players in the game. Blake Steep is another good player to watch. He could be a future captain. And they've got, I think, the best bench player in the game in Connor Watson. So there's enough there, and 6 is no mean feat in this competition. But I just think the Roosters are not going to make the 4, and they'll slip a bit lower.
Can Tedesco put another season together like last year?
Well, again, how long can he keep going for? He's very well prepared. He's a freakish player. But those above him have more X factors, unfortunately, I think, than the Roosters.
Number 5.
5, we've got our local team, the Storm. Might have tipped a bit higher, many are. But they've lost quite a few players. Katoa through medical issues. Puckenhausen, the biggest loss. Big Norman's gone as well. And the breaking news, which made me and most pundits, I think, drop them down their rankings, is Xavier Coates is gone with an Achilles. We know how long they take. If they don't get Zach Lomax and quickly, they're not going to finish in the top 4. If they do get him, I still don't have them in the top 4, Professor. Even if we do this again next week and they've signed him and an agreement's been reached, they weren't Storm like last year, if I can say that. The defence just wasn't there. They used to win matches on their boa constrictor type defence. I haven't seen that from the Storm. But again, finishing 5th in this field is no small feat.
So 5th, notwithstanding, they had the 2nd best defence in the competition last season and 3rd best offence. That usually gets you up the table, Paul.
Yeah, but they lost a lot of games that they wouldn't have in the Storm era that we've seen, Professor. They're not as intimidating as they were. So I love them. They're my local team. They're great for the game. But Storm and Eels is going to be interesting in round 1.
It's for the Zach Lomax Cup, isn't it?
Yeah, and then they've got the Dragons. So it may well be that they get off to a 2-0 and then go on a run from there. But I think their real test will be the Broncos in round 3. That's going to be some game. We might want to put that in the calendar, Professor. Friday, 20 March.
Sounds like a good one, Paul. All right, the top 4. Who's at number 4?
Now, I did want to get it, but I didn't get home to get it. My Smith-Chris jersey, I got my Rabbitohs at 4. That's through no bias at all. The bookies and the pundits have them out of the 8. I don't. I think they will be the biggest improver of any team from last year. I will preface it by saying this, Professor, that everything is aligned for 2027. I don't know if I've done this before going off this early, but I'll tip them to win next year, and I'll tip it now. I'm happy to tip it now for the futures traders. We are set up for everything to happen next year. Payne Haas has been signed. Wayne Bennett's hanging around. The problem is after 2027, about 2/3 of the team are gone or up for renewal. So it's next year or bust. This year we'll be building towards next year. We could have more Bears than Yogi Bear. I tell you that Yellowstone. What is it? Where was Yogi Bear from? I'm looking. Yellow, that's it, of course. I'm looking forward to. I think the X factor this year with Brandon Smith. He's got his life on track. He's going to have a great year. Latrell Mitchell will be loving playing outside the team he's got. He's already announced that we're going to win it next year. The only query is at our halfback position, and watching Ashton Ward play, I feel like his mother, that I just don't want him to get hurt because he's not a big fella. But Wayne Bennett has picked him over the much bigger fella, Jamie Humphries. I think he could be the long-term 7 at the Bunnies.
At number 3, Paul.
Number 3 got the Panthers, and that's a big part influenced by the fact of last night's result. It was that impressive. They lost 12 in a row last year, the Panthers. I don't think they'll be making that mistake this year. For the first time as well in about 5 years, they've lost no one of note, with no disrespect to those who've gone. We're talking about marquee players. I think they're going to be a very good shot at winning it. A lot of better judges than me have them tipping to win it all. So I don't. And you're probably already scratching that head of yours, Professors. Who have I got left? Because there's only 2 to go.
There are only 2 to go, Paul. So who have you got in the second position for this year?
And I'm happy to confidently predict that no other pundit in Australia or around the world is predicting this top 2. I've got at your favourite team, but at the second best spot, the Dogs. I did talk them up in our earlier segment. Phil Gould has a 5-year plan. It's often been actually joked about that he always talks about his 5-year plan. This is his 5th year at the Dogs. So I think they're primed, much like when Ange says he always wins trophies in his 2nd year, isn't it, in soccer? But I think in Gus's 5th year, whether he's planned it or not, I think it's going to happen. Get to the grand final, that is. I don't think they'll win it because obviously I've got them coming 2nd, but you're going to be there to win it. Kick out Preston, Burton, Garvin. Wow. Serraldo is a defensive genius. I'm looking forward to your team playing almost as much as you are, Professor.
They had the best defence in the competition last season, 114 points for the whole season, average of 17 points per game allowed. Daylight to the second team after that.
And Galvin and Burton's chemistry will only get better. As I said, I rate Burton as one of the top 3 5/8s in the game, and Galvin will soon be in the top 5 halves in the game, if not higher. Add those together, and that could be absolutely anything. You've got a very winnable start to the year. Dragons at home. You're down to the Raiders, who I've already said I don't rate as highly. You're at home to the Knights, and then you got my boys, the Bunnies. You could arrive with a 3-0 record at the Rabbitohs game in round 5, Professor, with round 2 a bye. So big signs. Who
have you got in the top spot, Paul?
Well, who's left, Professor? You got to guess it because I don't think anyone's got them there. Maybe a couple. The Dolphins. So I'm happy to go out on a limb. Call me Flipper. Maybe say that I've flipped. Some have said I've lost my marbles a long time ago, but I'm happy to put the big neck out, giraffe style, and I've lost the voice, Professor. The Dolphins. They put 40 on your Dogs last year. I'm sorry if that's triggering. They've got the best performing half in the comp. Katoa will only be better. Marshall King injury, the only downside on them, but Brad Schneider's a good addition to them. And the back line is beyond amazing because one of the better impact players in the game, Try Fuller, cannot make the run-on squad. So he's going to be the most exciting X factor in the game, along with the one playing at fullback, Hammersmith for now. So the Hammer, many good judges are saying, I think I said this last year, could be the best Indigenous player ever. And I'm happy to say that. And I think this year he could go as far as winning the Dalligan.
All right, Paul, the figures support you. They scored the most points in the comp last season, 721. The next best was the Broncos at 680. So they scored 41 more points than the Broncos for the season. The Broncos were premiers. But the only problem was only 6 teams had more scored points against them. But you're right, they are an attacking machine. The Hammer with 21 tries, Nicarima with 20. He scored 62 over the last 3 seasons, Paul, and Herbie Farnsworth 12 tries. Just dial up a score.
Selwyn Cobbo on perfectly placed on a 1-year deal, playing for his future. He's going to be amazing. They'll beat the Rabbitohs, I hate to say it, in round 1. They will then beat the Titans in round 2. They'll go to the Sharks and beat them in round 3. I don't think I've done that before. 3 straight predictions for you, Professor. And then they'll arrive at the Derby with the Broncos 3 under. And you probably can already see where I'm leaning. Get off to a 4-0 start and you beat the Premiers. Watch out.
Well, that's something for us to look out for, Paul. Let's also look at who do you think will win the Dalligan?
I've got Hammersmith for now at the Dolphins, which is a big stretch, but I think that he could do it. Or if not, the Katoa, the halfback there.
Which team will be the surprise packet of the year?
Rabbitohs most improved, if that's what you call a surprise packet. Someone who's signed Payne Haas and owned by the Atlassian trillionaire and Russell Crowe. I don't think they can surprise anymore, but they were surprised on the field.
Who will be the first coach sacked?
Given what I've predicted, it'd be Seabolt.
And who will be your most disappointing team for the season?
Well, the Dragons, unfortunately, they're expected to come last. Most have Manly higher. On my ratings, you'd have to have, I'd say Manly would be, or Manly or the Raiders would be what I think to be performing below expectations. But I actually will settle on the Broncos. They'll drop from 1st to 7th.
Well, thanks for that, Paul. Erudite, as always. That's all from the Scrum feed for this week. Paul and I will be back next week.
Good stuff. See you.